Hi, I'd like to make another video about Giants game used memorabilia, this time with a focus on the Giants 2014 postseason playoffs and World Series. For me, as I've said before, collecting is all about collecting memories, particularly trying to collect pieces of game used equipment that were used in historically significant games. And what could be more historically significant than the 2014 postseason when the Giants won their third World Series in 5 years? That was a unexpected gift and perhaps the last World Series championship that Giants fans will see perhaps in our lifetimes. You never know. I definitely cherish the moments that the 2014 postseason brought us, and I've tried to collect items that evoke those memories or from specific moments during the postseason that were iconic. If you talk to Giants fans, all you have to do is mention certain phrases and Giants fans will immediately know what you're talking about. Like you can say, "Pence in the fence catch," and everybody will know that what you're referring to is the brilliant catch that Hunter Pence made leaping up against the chain-linked part of the fence in right field during the 7th inning of the Game 4 of the NLDS in 2014. Pretty much a game-saving catch. Or you could say, "Crawford Grand Slam wild card," and everybody knows that that's the game-winning Grand Slam that quieted the crowd at the Pittsburgh Pirates ballpark. And sent the Giants into the next round of the playoffs. Basically, if I can find game-used pieces that are linked to any of these moments, then those are pieces that I definitely go after. Here's a few of those. Speaking of that Brandon Crawford Grand Slam, this is a 2014 wild card base. It was used in the 4th inning of the wild card game, actually used from innings 4 through 6. It's a second base. You can tell just by the way the postseason label is applied in a way that you have to slant the base in order to get it upright. This base is MLB authenticated to the wild card game in 2014, innings 4 through 6. And indeed, the 4th inning was the inning in which Crawford came to the plate with the bases loaded, with the hostile Pittsburgh crowd cheering and waving black towels, and a sea of black across the entire stadium. And with one swing of the bat, Crawford quieted the crowd and put the Giants ahead for good. That moment occurred while this base was on the ground, and in fact, Crawford stepped on this base on his way to home plate. Definitely an iconic moment in Giants history, and I'm happy to own a piece from that particular moment. Speaking of the Pence in the fence catch, this ball was authenticated as being pitched by Vogelsong in the top of the 6th inning on October 7, 2014. With a Jason Worth flyout to Pence in right field, and based on the description, you wouldn't immediately be able to deduce how significant this ball is, but this is indeed the ball that Hunter Pence caught while racing up and leaping and crashing into the chain link fence in right field next to the bricks, while the fans out in the free part of the ballpark were watching in amazement as Hunter Pence crashed into the fence in front of them. It's been signed by Hunter Pence and dated, and really another iconic moment from the 2014 playoffs. In watching retrospective reviews of that people have put together of the greatest single plays from the Giants in the past decade, this Hunter Pence in the fence catch routinely comes up as one of those plays. It's really a cool thing to know that this ball that was caught by Pence during that iconic play that will probably be talked about for decades to come is in my collection. That's one of the joys of collecting game used memorabilia. Like, shouldn't this be in a museum? I think it should be in the museum. I think the Giants should have kept it and put it on permanent display, but instead it wound up in my collection. Another piece that I want to discuss. This is sort of a 6 degrees of separation kind of connection to an iconic play, but this is a Brandon Crawford 2014 playoff jersey. It has the postseason patch and on the left sleeve, and this was worn by Crawford in games 1 and 2 of the NLDS. I photo matched it to both games. And the cool thing about the NLDS game 2 is that was the 18-inning game, which at the time had been the longest game ever played in the postseason. And it was ended in the 18th inning after Brandon Belt hit a game-winning home run to put the Giants ahead. And so all you have to say to a Giants fan is Brandon Belt 18th inning home run, and everybody will know exactly the play that you're talking about. And again, kind of a 6 degrees of separation association with that play. Crawford was in the on-deck circle behind Belt, and when Belt came in to touch home plate, Crawford was there in this jersey and gave him a high five, and I photo matched it to that exact photo. So this jersey was there in the moment during the 18th inning game-winning home run from NLDS game 2.
Belt with a drive hammered to deep right field, and that one is gone!
So now I'm going to move on to some items that were used in the 2014 World Series. And this is perhaps my favorite 2014 World Series jersey that I have in my collection. This is worn by Hunter Pence in the 2014 World Series Game 4. And Hunter Pence was a huge star during that game. He had a tremendous game. I think he went 3 for 5 with a double, drove in 3 runs, scored 2 runs, and after all of his offensive fireworks, he made a sliding catch, a spectacular sliding catch in the 9th inning. It has the World Series patch on the right sleeve, and this jersey is absolutely filthy, with lots of dirt stains that were probably kicked up during the time of that catch that he made in the 9th inning. There's even a green grass burn stain along the left side of the jersey that is also from that catch. And of course, Pence was pretty much the heart and soul of the Giants from 2012 to 2014 with his inspirational speeches and his highly caffeinated energy that he brought to the team, his positivity, just really a great Giant. Not only was he a huge asset in the clubhouse, but obviously on the field with timely hits, great defense, drove in runs, got on base, really just one of the prime Giants players from the championship era, and I was absolutely thrilled to be able to get a game-used jersey worn by Hunter Pence in the World Series, again from Game 4, a game that the Giants won at home. I have a number of other Giants World Series jerseys. This was another Game 4 jersey worn by the starting second baseman for the Giants at the time, Joe Panik. Likewise has the World Series patch. Joe Panik also had a great game. He I believe went 2 for 4, had 2 doubles, scored 2 runs. I think he bunted over a runner into scoring position who subsequently scored the game-tying run. It's a little bittersweet because Joe Panik was such a great player for the Giants for a few years before his unfortunate early decline. And I remember listening to the World Series broadcasts, and the broadcasters, Tim McCarver and Harold Reynolds, were just waxing poetic about what a great player Joe Panik is, and how he has all the skills to be such a great ball player and to be a perennial all-star. And he did eventually make the All-Star game the next season, but then by 2018 he started tailing off in terms of his production and was unfortunately released by the Giants last season. Really a heartbreaking moment for the Giants, but this jersey really evokes the time of when Panik was in his prime with the Giants, and Panik was a perfect complement to the 2014 Giants championship-winning team, playing great defense and getting on base and getting timely hits. Obviously, he has the legacy of starting the flip double play. That's another of those iconic postseason moments. Just say Joe Panik flip double play and everyone will know what you're talking about if you're a Giants fan. In Game 7, a play that may have saved Game 7 and saved the World Series. So Joe Panik has a great legacy with the Giants, even though it was too short. And again, happy to have this jersey from a game in which Panik really was a major contributor in the World Series. Continuing with the Killer Peas, this is a Pablo Sandoval game-used jersey from Game 5 of the World Series in 2014, the World Series patch on the right shoulder. Pablo had a couple of hits in this game, scored a run. Game 5, of course, was Bumgarner's famous complete game shutout. The Giants won that game 5-0. This jersey is also filthy. Thank goodness the Giants did not wash any of these jerseys from the World Series after they were worn. This one, Pablo had a habit of chewing tobacco during games, and he would spit the tobacco, of course, and there's chewing tobacco that he spit and got all over this jersey. And in fact, I used that to photo match it. It's MLB authenticated to Game 5, but I also like to photo match just to confirm, because I never completely trust the holograms. And indeed, the chewing tobacco pattern that was spit on the front of this jersey photo matches to video from the game. It's really amazing to go back and watch these videos of the World Series, and I mentioned the Killer Peas before, Pablo, Panik, and Pence, and I guess you can throw Posey in there as well. They were a hitting clinic, getting timely base hits, driving each other in, moving runners over. Really the golden era of Giants baseball. The Giants were never known as a great offensive team, but in the World Series at least, with the Killer Peas, they just kept the line moving and managed to score a fair number of runs against the Royals en route to their World Series championship. I also have a pair of game-used pants that was also worn in Game 5 by Pablo Sandoval, which I was able to photo match to one of the iconic photos of Pence and Pablo chest butting after Pablo and Pence both scored on Juan Perez's double in that game. So great memories from Games 4 and 5 from the Killer Peas. A couple of other items to share. Game-used bats from the World Series are incredibly difficult to find. Generally, they don't get MLB authenticated unless they get broken. So the only bats that tend to be available and known as World Series used bats are ones that are broken. The rest probably go on to use in spring training or are kept by the players and are never out in the market to be known as World Series game-used bats. But this one is MLB authenticated to Gregor Blanco using it in World Series Game 2, 2014 World Series. Of course, it's broken, and that's how it got taken out of play and authenticated. And I love this bat. I was able to photo match it. It has plenty of marks that allow the photo match to be easy. And I was able to photo match it to basically every single at-bat that Gregor Blanco had in Game 1 of the World Series and his first couple of at-bats in Game 2 of the World Series. And what's so cool about that is Blanco led off Game 1 of the World Series with a base hit. So this bat was used for the very first base hit of the 2014 World Series. And then even better than that, in Game 2, Gregor Blanco, the leadoff hitter, led off the game with a home run. So this is a World Series home run bat. It's hard enough to get World Series game used bats, but to find a home run bat in the World Series is darn near impossible. And the Giants hit 2 home runs in the 2014 World Series. Hunter Pence hit the other one. I've never seen that bat come up or knowingly come up as a home run bat. I was just thrilled to be able to get a home run bat from the 2014 World Series used by Gregor Blanco for his leadoff home run in Game 2. A few more items. I have a number of World Series balls that were MLB authenticated and thrown, but I just want to go and show a few of them. These three, this one was hit by Joe Panik in Game 1 for a 2 RBI triple. Really one of the plays that makes all the highlight reels from the 2014 World Series, when Joe Panik hit the ball past the sliding Nori Aoki and wound up on third base and drove in 2 runs and added to the Giants' lead in Game 1, which they won. I was even able to try to photo match this streak across the side panel of the ball to a super slow-mo clip that they played of the Joe Panik triple of him hitting the ball. So I think I've actually maybe photo matched it. Kind of hard to do for a ball. Speaking of the Joe Panik triple, I have shown this base from Game 1 before in a video about Bumgarner game used items, but this I'll show it again here because it was used in the 7th through 9th inning, and Joe Panik, I believe, hit that triple in the 8th inning. Might have been the 7th inning or the 8th inning, but at any rate, he stood on this base after he hit the triple. So this base and the triple ball that I own both kind of go hand in hand. They go together. So a couple of other balls that I have here. This one is another base hit. I collect basically World Series Giants base hit balls and World Series Giants strikeout balls. This was a ball hit by Sandoval for an RBI single, also in Game 1. Just showing it here since it does have the RBI associated with it, so it scored a run. Makes it a little bit more special than just your average random hit. There were a lot of World Series balls out there. In 2014, they probably authenticated maybe 30 to 40 per game in 7 games, so there's probably like 250 to 280 World Series game used balls. So you kind of have to be selective about what you buy. I tend to just buy, again, hits and strikeouts. This is one of the first balls that I bought, which kind of broke my rule. This is from Game 7 of the 2014 World Series and was pitched by Tim Hudson. It is not a strikeout ball and not a hit ball. It was a pitch in the dirt, and you can see the scuff mark there. But the reason why this one is kind of significant, not super significant, but is that Tim Hudson was the oldest pitcher to ever start a Game 7 of the World Series. I think he was maybe 40 years old. And this was his first pitch. So when he threw this pitch, the first pitch of the game, he became the oldest starter in Major League history to start a Game 7 of the World Series. It's also the only Game 7 item I own. Game 7, obviously a classic game, and I kind of like this ball because it's the only one I have from Game 7. I do have two more jerseys to show from the World Series from 2014. This is a jersey from the starting center fielder Gregor Blanco, worn in Game 6. This is a road jersey, played in Kansas City. Of course, Game 6 wasn't such a great game for the Giants. They lost 10-0, which is probably the reason that this jersey wound up on the sales rack at the Giants game used store. Nobody really wanted it, so I got it at a steep discount. But Gregor Blanco does have a nice legacy with the Giants as their starting center fielder, filling in for Angel Pagan in 2014, and also their starting center fielder in 2012 also. Blanco went something like 0 for 4 during this game. Not a great game for him, but nonetheless a nice World Series jersey from one of the Giants starting players. The last jersey I want to show is from Brandon Crawford. This also was in the bargain bin from Game 6. Likewise, probably not the most desirable World Series jersey, but you know, World Series games are significant enough to me that I will probably buy any Giants starter from any World Series game that is within a reasonable price. So I think Crawford went 1 for 2 in this game, had a single. Really one of the iconic Giants from the golden era, as maybe even the best starting shortstop ever in Giants history. One other note, one thing that the Giants started to do, and probably a lot of the other teams also in 2014 and beyond, was they would change jerseys every single World Series game. So as opposed to the 2010 and 2012 World Series where there may have only been one home and one road jersey, the Giants pretty much had 6 or 7 jerseys each during the World Series. And it depends on what side of the fence you're on, if you think that's a good or a bad thing. I think it's good because I was able to, it increases availability of jerseys, and I was happy to be able to own some of these jerseys, whereas if only one jersey from the home and one jersey from the road were produced for the World Series, maybe I wouldn't have had the opportunity to own any. So at any rate, that's a little story about the 2014 postseason and World Series, and some of the game used items from my collection.